in improving the quality of life for our citizens, with the aim of driving overall sustainability, delivering essential services to improve livability, and attracting new business and industries to the city to help create new jobs. Before we dive into the heart of our discussion today, please take notes that how the session will be running. All questions from the audience will be taken during the Q&A, and the Q&A icon can be seen at the bottom of your screen. Please indicate the city and country you're from. The webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on the event's website afterward. The presentation will also be made available on the website. To begin today's webinar, I would like now to introduce one of our amazing speakers today. So our first speaker is Dr. Bill Jazurzi. He is a Deputy Director of the Telecommunications Standard Bureau of ITU for the opening remarks. Since 2010, he has been leading the Bureau's standard-making activities into a new era characterized by rapid convergence and the need for increased collaboration with vertical sectors and participations between developed and developing countries. So, Dr. Bill, the floor is yours.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in an era where urbanization is on the rise, it's imperative that we transform our cities into hubs of innovation, efficiency, and sustainability. The concept of citiverse is a unique amalgamation of the metaverse and cities, leveraging cutting-edge technologies to harness the power of AI, data analytics, digital twin, and immersive technologies to provide comprehensive real-time insights into the dynamics of cities. Citiverse empowers urban stakeholders with accountable information, enabling them to optimize resource allocation, enhance city services, and create more livable, efficient, and sustainable urban environments. This innovative environment has the potential to revolutionize urban planning and management by offering a holistic understanding of city life in an easily accessible format. To create better, healthier, and more livable communities for us and for future generations, Citiverse can leverage emerging technologies to enhance the quality of life for their inhabitants by reducing energy consumption and improving overall urban services. The ITU focus group on metaverse is also delving into the topic of Citiverse, led by Ms. Christina Zhang from the Metaverse Institute and Cristina Martinez from the European Commission. The focus group, through its topic group on Citiverse, will not only look at the concept of Citiverse in a holistic fashion, but will also examine how the Citiverse can serve as an ideal vehicle for decision-making in the urban context. To provide further clarity on the concept of Citiverse, the focus group is also developing a definition of this term. This path-breaking exercise will pave the way for stakeholders to gain a common understanding of what a Citiverse is and how its functioning can be adapted for the benefit of a city. Complementing the work carried out by the focus group, the ITU Study Group 20 on the lead, which is the lead expert group that focuses on the development of standards to help cities accelerate their digital transformation, promoting the interoperability and seamless integration of IoT technologies, and fostering innovation and enabling the empowerment of smart city solutions worldwide. Similarly, the United for Smart Sustainable Cities Initiative, U4SSC, is a global UN effort that brings together governments, international organizations, and industry leaders, and other stakeholders to advance the development of the urban ecosystem through digital transformation. Let us embrace the challenge and work together to build a cityverse that is open, secure, inclusive, and accessible. I look forward to learning more about this important topic from our distinguished speakers. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Jarsouri, for those thought-provoking remarks and giving us an overview of the cityverse. Our next speaker is from Querétaro, Mexico, one of the safest and the most culturally and technically advanced cities in Latin America. And this city has been recognized by the Financial Times as one of the top 10 cities of the future. Luis Nava Guerrero is mayor of the city, and he is one of the 3 best evaluated mayors in Mexico, with a 77% of approval rate with the population. He's president of the Mexican World Heritage Sites Association and vice president of the Mayors National Association. So I would like now to pass the floor on to Luis, mayor of Querétaro, Mexico. Thank you.
Hola a todos, agradezco su invitación a este importante webinar. Me entusiasma compartir este espacio con ustedes para platicar sobre un tema que me apasiona, la ciudad de Querétaro y su vocación como una ciudad inteligente, como una ciudad del futuro. Pero fundamentalmente quiero transmitirles nuestro propósito de ubicar a los ciudadanos en el centro de nuestra evolución. Dicho de otro modo, toda innovación debe partir por darle su lugar a la persona, reconocer que cada vida humana tiene un valor absoluto y por lo tanto darle de la misma forma prioridad a la interacción del ciudadano con su ciudad. Debemos sembrar la semilla de una cultura digital, darle un giro a nuestro sistema de pensamiento, darle un giro a nuestra concepción de ciudad, repensarla y reconstruirla a partir de valores como el sentido común, la creatividad, la innovación y los procesos de aprendizaje de una ciudad colaborativa. Entonces sí, podremos usar la tecnología como un medio para conectar a las personas, para cerrar brechas tecnológicas y sociales, promoviendo el desarrollo de la población y facilitando un crecimiento económico incluyente. Y así, nos va a ser posible alinear las nuevas tecnologías con los fines de la ciudad, fortaleciendo la participación ciudadana e interconectándonos en tiempo real para la detección y atención de las necesidades de la población. Podremos también acelerar nuestro desarrollo a partir de este modelo de ciudad e incidir en factores y retos como la habitabilidad, la seguridad, el cuidado ambiental, la gobernanza, los servicios públicos y la movilidad, entre muchos otros temas. Ya vemos, pues, la magnitud del reto. Como ustedes saben, la ONU, la Organización de las Naciones Unidas, estima que para el año 2050, más del 66% de la población mundial estará concentrada en áreas urbanas, por lo que debemos ser capaces de visibilizar esta área de oportunidad. Debemos anticiparnos, innovar y aprovechar los avances tecnológicos, dándole siempre el primer lugar a los ciudadanos. En la ciudad de Querétaro, hacia allá vamos. Estamos emprendiendo e innovando. Nos alimentamos de visiones globales para generar soluciones y respuestas locales. Creemos en las asociaciones público-privadas desde la perspectiva del desarrollo. Contemplamos una hoja de ruta de conectividad para la transición a las redes 5G. Ya estamos listos para incorporarnos y participar de lleno en la industria digital. Y tenemos todo el potencial económico y sociocultural para hacerlo. un recurso humano que representa nuestra mejor carta de presentación. Somos además una ciudad que destaca a nivel nacional e internacional, declarada Ciudad Patrimonio de la Humanidad, Ciudad Creativa del Diseño y Ciudad del Aprendizaje por la UNESCO, miembro de la Red de Ciudades Michelin y la Red Mundial de Ciudades del Árbol. También es reconocida por el Financial Times como una de las 10 ciudades globales del futuro y una de las 5 ciudades con mayor potencial económico en el continente americano. Tenemos una industria diversificada que evolucionó a las industrias de tecnologías de la información, de los servicios financieros, de la aeronáutica, los servicios 4.0 y servicios compartidos en la actualidad. Tenemos un ecosistema tecnológico en crecimiento, con más de 350 empresas tecnológicas operando en la ciudad, incluyendo reconocidas compañías internacionales como Bombardier, Continental, Safran y Samsung. Somos una ciudad en donde hoy apostamos a la innovación y al uso de la tecnología para mejorar la calidad de vida de las personas. Contamos, finalmente, con un proyecto que merece mención especial, como lo es nuestro próximo Centro de Innovación y Tecnología Creativa, que lleva por nombre Bloque, un espacio público que colocará el binomio conformado entre el talento queretano y la industria digital en el centro de desarrollo y la calidad de vida de nuestra ciudad. Un edificio moderno, accesible, que se convertirá en el hogar de una comunidad viva, un espacio de más de 10,000 metros cuadrados, diseñado para fomentar la colaboración, la creatividad y la innovación, para brindar capacitación sobre las nuevas tecnologías, apoyar el emprendimiento en este sector e impulsar el sector de videojuegos. También buscamos cerrar brechas digitales y convertirnos en desarrolladores de la tecnología. Y por supuesto, con esto, impulsar la movilidad social. Nuestro propósito es articular el mejor ecosistema de innovación en nuestro país, a partir de un modelo que denominamos de 4 Es: educación, empleo, emprendimiento y entretenimiento. Con educación en tecnologías emergentes y desarrollo de habilidades para la industria de los videojuegos, tendremos más de 10,000 beneficiarios directos por cada año. Con apoyo a emprendimientos de base tecnológica, beneficiaremos a más de 60 empresas emergentes locales anualmente. Y con apoyos para empresas de base tecnológica, facilitaremos la generación de 300 empleos por año en este edificio. Esto nos va a permitir potenciar el talento queretano para generar utilidad social, cerrar brechas sociales a través del apoyo al emprendimiento y la creación de mejores empleos. Estamos seguros de que Bloque se convertirá muy rápido en un referente nacional. Representa una gran apuesta hacia el futuro de México, una apuesta que estoy seguro se replicará en otros estados, beneficiando cada vez a más mexicanos. Y esperamos igualmente que se den el tiempo de visitarlo, de conocerlo y sumarse a nuestra comunidad de innovación en un futuro cercano. Están invitados a conocer el Bloque. Tengo claro que para aspirar a lo mejor necesitamos rodearnos de los mejores. Por eso celebro nuestra amistad y nuestras coincidencias. La convicción común de ubicar a las personas en el centro de nuestras decisiones para lograr ciudades inteligentes. Y la determinación de avanzar unidos hacia un futuro más humano, brillante y sin límites. Un futuro donde nuestros jóvenes no solo consumen y usan tecnología, sino que la crean. Donde nuestros emprendedores no solo sueñan, sino que también construyen y los hacen realidad. Y donde cada ciudadano es parte integral de un ecosistema que no solo prospera económicamente, sino que también enriquece nuestro tejido social y cultural. Trabajemos juntos para que el futuro de las ciudades inteligentes signifique prosperidad, innovación y oportunidades para todos. A todas y todos ustedes, De corazón, muchas gracias. Saludos. Hola a todos.
Thank you so much, Luis, for your very passionate speech. And your city will be hosting the fourth ITU Forum on Shaping the Citiverse, People-Centered Cities, and Virtual World. So we're looking forward to visiting you all in March next year. So our next speaker is Chun-Sun Park, Secretary General of WeGo, World Smart Sustainable City Organization. Ms. Park has dedicated her career in the field of international cooperation. She served as a Korean representative of the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization for 10 years and was a high-profile TV broadcaster. Ms. Park focused on human-centered, sustainable smart city, and she believes that smart city framework has become a culture in itself for the lives of our citizens. Ms. Park, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests and excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Jung-Suk Park, Secretary General of WeGo, the world's Smart Sustainable City organizations. WeGo is an international organization of city and local governments and solution provider companies and institutions for R&D to promote transformation of cities into smart sustainable cities. The headquarters is located here in Seoul, so it's 11:20 p.m. So, and as an organization focused on smart city, we can confidently say that it is one of the largest and oldest membership-based organization in the world. So I am happy to be part of this important new agenda of partnership with outstanding global stakeholders. And I'm glad to find very familiar faces here. And we discussed important role of municipalities and cities for making their citizens' life sustainable and livable. So I'm sure cities could play a critical role in making tangible projects and policies as well. So I believe that the citiverse is a very fresh and timely matter to discuss for time to come to us. And first of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to ITU and the Metaverse Institute, the two organizations behind today's discussions on people-centered citiverse, for inviting WeGo to be part of this important discussion. This is indeed the exciting subject that delve into the opportunities and challenges that we've faced in urban development. And WeGo and ITU partnership dates back to 3 years ago, after having participated in the high-level dialogue at the WISES Forum in 2022 through online. I was honored and pleased to be part of a mayor's high-level events at this year's WISES Forum in person. So WeGo and ITU share a common goal of enabling people-centered sustainable smart city through digital transformation. Our partnership revolved around the collective opportunities for the ongoing year and beyond. Today's theme captions how to successfully develop people-centered citiverse. Yes, it is very critical question that we should always ask ourselves when it comes to smart city development. After pandemic and drastic climate change, we are witnessing people-centered smart city have become crucial since they prioritized their well-being and needs of residents, and leading to more sustainable, inclusive, and livable urban environment. So decentralization, the role of cities is increasingly elevating in global discussion. So cities are on the front line of the addressing pressing local issues, making them better equipped to respond promptly and effectively. So they are hub of innovation and can tailor solutions to their specific needs. Moreover, as urbanization continues, cities become focal point for economic growth and social development. This growing importance of cities in this centralized system enhances their influence and relevance. This importance of the city's role and human-centered smart city value stands at the heart of all WIGO's program and activities. One of our notable endeavors is the Seoul Smart City Prize, which is designed to promote the innovative yet inclusive smart city model that looks after underprivileged groups in the era of the fourth industrial revolution. This core mission serves as a basis of two categories of the prize. One, tech innovative. Second one, human-centric city. As WIGO envisions that smart city should be defined and measured in terms of being both people-centric and technology-centric. This year, we awarded the inaugural prize during the ceremony at the Seoul Smart City Prize 1 month ago. Out of 240 entities, we honored 21 finalist cities, corporations, and institutions, and individuals across the multiple categories. The human-centric city project gold focusing on digital inclusion for vulnerable groups was awarded to the city of Odense in Denmark for its innovation, leadership, empowerment, and advocacy for the people, named LEAP digital platform. This platform has introduced the groundbreaking methodology for enhancing future welfare through online questionnaires and public engagement. We also recognize outstanding leaders with the Leadership Prize, which was awarded to the Mayor Shakafalas Nur Taposhi of Dhaka South City Corporation in Bangladesh, and Mayor Ugur Ibrahim Artay of Konya in Turkey. So Dhaka South mayor was recognized for his significant contribution to Dhaka's advancement and well-being of its residency. And Konya's mayor made a lot of digital applications for their citizens. So when they faced the earthquake, one of these applications saved their citizens' lives as well. So today I am excited to hear about Smart City Initiative from Querétaro and Rotterdam, Dubai, City of Tampere, and Gwangju as well. All seems to be strong candidate for the Seoul Prize winners next year. I'm looking forward to meeting your wonderful project as well. And another important programs I want to highlight today is the WIGO IMD Smart City Index. This year, WIGO has partnered with the IMD Smart City Observatory to publish the Smart City Index 2023. This index focuses on citizen-centric data, combining hard metrics and survey responses to assess how efficiently technology helps cities address challenges and improve residents' quality of life. The IMD Smart City Index is distinctive because it utilizes city-level data from the Human Development Index. This comprehensive approach considers various indicators such as life expectancy and education, income, offering more holistic view of quality of life for city residents, as opposed to the country level data. And last program to share today is the WIGO Smart City Champion, which is a youth program that aims to foster knowledge sharing and capacity building of youth in the field of urban development, sustainability, and smart city development. In the ever-progressing field of smart cities, the youth's role has been refound. Young people have been salient advocates of transitioning to processing official matter from paper to digital, like in banking, schooling, and government-related business, culture, and tourism, etc., as well as promoting social inclusivity. In essence, the youth innate digital literacy has become a powerful tool to champion forwarding sustainable smart city development. Lastly, we launched this program last year, with a combination of online and offline part, and over 500 students from 100 schools in 19 different countries participated. After the success of last year's WIGO Smart City Champion, this year we are continuing the program with a wider scope in addition to online lecture series. And this year's program has also been hosted in person in 6 other cities like Baku, Azerbaijan, Munich, Germany, Geneva, Switzerland, Athens, Greece, and Milan, Italy, and Los Angeles, USA. If you are interested in being connected to this program, please reach out to me, WIGO, and we can share materials and enable any students from all parts of the world to join and be smart city champions. So WIGO celebrates and support this initiative on people-centered citiverse led by ITU, and which is expected to bring about the digital transformation that makes cities more livable, sustainable, and equitable for all citizens. We believe that the digital transformation of cities holds a vast opportunity for innovation and inclusion. Taking a step further from today's discussion, WIGO will share the inspiration idea exchanged today and strive to spread this important value to WIGO members and partners worldwide. I look forward to joining the rest of the fruitful discussion on the development of a people-centered citiverse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General, for your support to ITU on the Citiverse initiative, and also massive congratulations for all the wonderful work your members has already been doing to champion the people-centered smart city developments. So we're very much looking forward to working with you and to become the champion for people-centered Citiverse in the future. Thank you very much. Now, let's move on to our next opening remarks, for which I would like to introduce Dr. Adlan Yamaru, who is the Chief Knowledge and Innovation Branch of UN Habitat. She leads global policy analysis and foresight on sustainable urbanization, as well as innovation work on digital and smart city solutions. She holds an MPhil in development studies from the University of Cambridge and a PhD in human geography from the University of London. Adlan, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was trying to unmute myself. And no, I want to start by saying I really appreciate UN Habitat receiving an invitation to join you in this very timely, very exciting and complex conversation of the Citiverse today. So very grateful to the organizers for having invited me. So of course, UN Habitat is the UN agency or entity that is responsible for promoting and supporting sustainable cities and human settlements globally. We are in the lead for promoting the implementation as well as monitoring of SDG 11, which is focused on advancing the notion of sustainable cities and communities. And I'm actually addressing you today from Istanbul, where UN Habitat will be celebrating World Cities Day tomorrow. And we have some pre-events today. And a lot of the conversation today has been around financing sustainable urbanization and a sustainable urban future. And I think I want to come back to that a bit later on in my introduction as well, the question of finance and resources and capabilities as a question that we must ask as we think about the Citiverse. So at UN Habitat, of course, recognizing that we live in a very clearly digital urban world with two tracks of transformations, highly intertwined and highly interconnected, that is the digital and the urban transformation, we do place quite a lot of emphasis on smart city development, both for the present as well as the future that we're looking at in terms of urban sustainability. And as we do so at UN Habitat in our work on smart city development, we recognize, of course, both the innate opportunities of digital technology to help improve the quality of life in cities globally. But as many of us and as many entities today recognize, the risks are also significant and substantial. And so this is why we are very clear in our proposal and advocacy around a people-centered smart cities approach. And it's really good to hear the other speakers speaking also about a human-centered approach to smart cities. And even this particular session today focusing on a people-centered cityverse. So it's good to see that. It's good to see the alignment. So in our work at UN Habitat on a people-centered smart cities, we put inclusion and human rights before everything else. And we promote the centering of people's needs, people's rights, and people's priorities before technology. And therefore, people before technology is our principle in our work. And to be a bit more specific, we promote 5 principles with respect to people-centered smart cities. And my message today is that these very same principles remain absolutely relevant and essential as we think about the Citiverse as well. And so just to highlight what these 5 principles are, which I believe remain relevant in the realm of the Citiverse, the first is empowering people and communities. As UN Habitat, for decades, and in fact, ahead of many other actors, we have been very clear on the need to involve and engage and empower stakeholders, and also to involve, engage, and communities. And so this remains a priority for us in our smart city development work as well, the notion of empowering people and communities before anything else, maximizing participation, representation, transparency, and sharing control and oversight over technology with people and communities. A second principle for us is making access to technology equitable, which is the equity piece, the digital equity piece, both in terms of affordability, but also the skills and access to devices as well. A third principle for us is around the notion of responsibly managing data and digital infrastructure. And here it's really about ensuring that we have a data governance framework that works for people, that works for communities, and ensures that we are aligned to principles of inclusion. A fourth area for us is the notion of building trust and securing digital assets, safeguarding public trust. When we think about smart city development, protecting data, protecting rights is part of this notion of and principle of security. And finally is really capacity, whether it's in terms of the infrastructure capabilities, but also the capacity of stakeholders to engage with this agenda. this agenda is not one that all can engage with. And I think we might have to think about this carefully when we think about the Cityverse as well. So I'm sharing these principles because I believe they are equally relevant as we consider the Cityverse. I want to move on quickly now to highlight what I think may be, of course, very clear and critical opportunities as we think about the Cityverse, but also challenges that we have to think about very critically. Of course, it's clear that, you know, in the realm of the Cityverse, we have a wonderful opportunity to think about innovating, experimenting, imagining, you know, at a very low cost. And so the notion of digital twinning can definitely transform how we think about urban design, urban planning in the virtual space. It allows us to model, to assess, to determine sort of the choices we want to make about shaping and reshaping urban form, how we think about our cities in an easy and sort of low-cost fashion. It allows us to think about not just the infrastructure and the design elements we have today, but the design elements and infrastructure for the future, for future urban growth, for the trajectories that we know are going to happen with respect to urban development. And from my perspective, far more importantly, it allows us to model the interconnected effects of choices and decisions. How does one decision impact another part of sort of the ecosystem of decisions that we need to make? So in this sense, it can be very powerful. So that's very clear. And this is one of the benefits that I see among others as well. Just very quickly, though, I do see challenges. And the first one that I want to highlight is, are we at risk of exporting the challenges of smart city development to the metaverse or to the Cityverse? And what do I mean here? What I mean is, we know that in today's world, we are facing critical digital urban divides and inequities. Do we not face a risk of replicating those in the Cityverse as well? And what do I mean by this? In the first instance, not all actors or decision makers will have similar or equal or comparable capabilities and access to the metaverse and the Cityverse and all these solutions that we're talking about. So in a sense, the skills, capacities, and infrastructure inequities that we see as we think about smart city development in reality are also at risk of being replicated when we think about the Cityverse and the metaverse. Who has access? Who has the skills? Who has the capabilities? Who has the infrastructure foundations to be operating in the Cityverse and the metaverse space? So I think this is something that we have to think about and avoid the Cityverse and the metaverse fast becoming the new frontier of the urban digital divide, the new frontier of inequity and inequalities. And so what are the safeguards that need to be in place to avoid replicating these inequities? This is one major question I have. The second is, when we think about the Cityverse and the metaverse and its construction and what it's constructed with in terms of the data foundations, the physical and spatial plans that we need to draw on to construct the Cityverse, in many parts of the world, there are critical gaps, data poverty, gaps in the physical and spatial planning foundations and information. Many cities can't even keep track of the evolution of their physical morphology, how their cities are changing and expanding. So what will be the data and spatial information that becomes the foundation of the Cityverse, where we don't have that data, at least in sort of, in a usable format? What then is the foundation for the Cityverse and the metaverse and constructing these ideas in the virtual realm? So how do we tackle this? How do we think about digital twinning for these kind of contexts where data poverty and inequities are very critical and serious? So I think my message here is, we have to be very critical about the risks as we think about the opportunities. We have to be critical about not replicating the inequities that we see today with respect to smart city development as we think about the Cityverse. Who is in, who's out? Who comes along, who's left behind? I think these are the questions that I would want us to think about very carefully. Finally, I want to end by saying that these questions are very important for the United Nations more broadly, as well as UN Habitat. The UN is thinking critically about the digital divide and its consequences for global development, our Secretary General is developing, or at least wanting to develop, a global digital compact to ensure that collectively we honor global responsibility around the sort of responding or addressing the risks of digital technology and digital transformation, even though it can be profoundly positive in its impact. And more specifically on artificial intelligence, the UN has just announced a high-level advisory body on artificial intelligence, recognizing how critical this issue is for the world that we live in today, and also for the cities in which we live and the kind of smart city development and transitions that we want to see. So this is the UN's response with respect to artificial intelligence and related issues of the metaverse, is to think about where is the global responsibility, what are the common values and principles we want to see in this conversation, in this space. And I think it's the same questions when we think about the citiverse. Global responsibility, ensuring that we maximize impact for everyone, everywhere, for all cities everywhere. At least we should aspire to that and ensure that we don't leave some places, some people behind as we look at this very powerful and very promising opportunity ahead of us. So this is my message for today's conversation from UN Habitat. I think it's a great conversation to be in. And finally, my final point is to say that at UN Habitat, we have been tasked by countries, all countries of the world that convened at the second session of the UN Habitat Assembly, to develop international guidelines for people-centered smart cities. We have started, we are working on that. And the idea is, again, to ask, in the context of global responsibility, what are the common values, principles, and aspirations that we must protect, we must elevate, and we must promote as we think about smart city development. And the same issues would apply when we think about the citiverse. So I'm happy to share more information on the international guidelines, which will be finalized by 2025. And we'll take on board some of what's coming out of today and the notion of the citiverse as well in those guidelines as the forward-looking aspect of the whole smart city development trajectory. Thank you. Back over to you.
Thank you so much, Adeline. I agree with you entirely. I mean, worldwide, we still have like 3 billion population who are not even connected online. So when we're talking about the beauty of AI, metaverse, etc., digital twins, how can we ensure no one is left behind? So accessibility, inclusion, and diversity is definitely a very key important elements of our development around the citiverse, especially people-centered citiverse moving forward. And you're absolutely right. The UN Secretary General's digital compass will be a major guiding principles for all our experts within the task group to incorporate when we try to, looking at case studies and framework standard, etc. And we are very keen to working with you to looking at how that can be incorporated into the wider UN ecosystem moving forward. So your contribution is really greatly valued and appreciated by all of us. Thank you so much again. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So now I'd like to encourage our audience to type in any questions you have had, and our panelists will do their very best to answer them during the Q&A session. So we have already a very amazing opening remarks from some of the world's top leaders. And now we are going to invite some of our panelists to go deeper into the whole conversation on shaping the citiverse in the digital age. And I would like to invite Roland van der Heijden, who is Program Manager of City of Rotterdam from Netherlands, to give our first presentation. Let me introduce him very briefly first. So he's originally a city planner, and he has always had a great interest in how a city is developing. So recently he has been looking at how a whole new range of traditional, and emerging technology being utilized within the city environment, especially with the digital space, and how that's going to interact with our physical space to create the future smart city within the citiverse environment. So Roland, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, and welcome everybody, and thank you for being here and listening to our stories. I hope I can interest you also with what we in Rotterdam are doing on this turf. So I'm now going to share my screen. Can you see my screen now? Christina,
It's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Christina. So Rotterdam and the cityverse or the metaverse, I will use those terms mixed, I think, but it's still searching what is what, and how should we develop this? How should we explore and shape that new future together? That's what we're thinking about. And it all starts with the question, what's next? Because when we start in 2018 with our digital city program in Rotterdam, our horizon at that moment was the thinking of what was the digital transformation doing to our city? What kind of city are we becoming? And what does that do with the challenges of our city? And what kind of role do we have as a government in that new city? And so that were the questions that we had at that moment. That was our horizon then. But now we're in 2023, and now we're reaching our destination there. And we have found, I would not say all the answers, but quite some answers to the questions. And we've developed our open air platform with a digital twin, and that will be all fully operational next year. So we are reaching the destination there. So what's next? What's our new horizon? What are we looking at from the point where we are standing now? And then we see the metaverse or the cityverse as something that is coming towards us, as that seems to be important. But what is it then? That's the next question for us. So as we look at the city, then we see what we call a social, physical, digital city. We see what we call the traditional city. That's mainly the social, physical dimension that represents a traditional city. That's how we shaped our cities for centuries. But now the digital reality is connected to that. And with the development of our digital twin, we try to make a connection between that physical and digital world. And when we make that connection all together, then we create what we say a digital urban community in Rotterdam. A community, a world in which people completely fluidly move between completely physical surroundings, completely digital surroundings, and every hybrid form in between. And then we see the metaverse coming towards us. What at this moment mainly is something that's happening on that social digital reality. The main aspect of the metaverse is that you'll be footloose. You can be everywhere in that world. So what is then the difference or the same as being a digital urban community as a city? So what's the metaverse doing to that? Now, when you look at that, then you see that the metaverse is footloose. That's its main aspect. It can have connections to a physical place, but in the essence, it's footloose. And at the same time, we see that the city is in its essence defined by its physical construction. And it can also be footloose, but it can also be has that physical connection. And it's really, in our case, when you talk about the city, it's really a local ecosystem. So we really want to understand what that metaverse concept is doing to our digital urban community concept of what we think that future will be of our city. Now, and when you look at the metaverse, you could say that the metaverse light in some extent already exists. And we see all kinds of what you could say betaverses. You see immersive tech developments, you see AI developments, you see all kinds of change in behavior of our youth. I often use the example of my own daughter. She is now 18, and when I was 18, I went outside and played physically on that physical square outside. And my daughter now spends the same time, but then in the digital surroundings, hanging around with friends, playing games, chatting. And so you see change in behavior. We also see very negative aspects, like COVID or the war in Ukraine, where you see that digital, physical, and social completely are intertwined with each other, and what it does, and how in COVID in Holland, the digital infrastructure kept our society functioning to a great extent. You see companies like Nike or the development of NFTs, digital art, all kind of expressions there, and lots of money brought in there. But for me personally, what was the most important aspect in which I thought that the metaverse is really becoming a digital world, which is much more than just a tool or a game or whatever, that really real emotions can be attached to it, was when I saw a video that was made in the south of Korea of a mother who was reconnected to her deceased daughter. And she really get emotionally lost in that construction, that VR construction that was built there. And although everybody knows it was not real, the emotions were, and everybody can understand that the emotions were there. So it really popped up the question that this kind of worlds that we are creating can be really emotional. And when you think about that as an extension of our life, you can also think, are we going to die in the future in that digital world? I have a question that we can, only this question we can talk about for hours, but it's something that pops up. And what really made for me visible what was happening here was, I don't know if you know the book Sapiens from Yuval Harari, but he talks in that book about the imaginary layer, the layer that we people have created thousands of years ago already, has started with drawings in caves, but also our political systems, our religions, all those things that we have developed are developed by us humans, and we create a value to that system of thinking. And you could say that the metaverse, in some extent, could be maybe the, I don't know if it's perfect, but or ideal, but the ultimate imaginary layer here in our thinking, in our world, where we keep our values from. So what is then the metaverse for us? Now, in our opinion, the metaverse is something where all those metaverses are coming together, you could say. But that's more a technical approach, but that's something also the part of it. We see all things coming together. So in terms of techniques, we see AI, blockchain, immersive, quantum, web, all those techniques coming together and enhancing each other. The same we see on the terms of data. Data becoming more and more interoperable and more and more available for all kinds of sources, all kinds of data, all kinds of use. Software becoming more interoperable. As long as we talk about, when we talk about games, and we have a separate Origin account and a separate Steam account, then we're not talking about the universe of the metaverse, in my opinion. And all networks are becoming more and more integral. So you could say that when all those things are coming together, and the key word in that is interoperability, then you see, in my opinion, something of that new world arising, what we call metaverse or citiverse. And that interoperability has all kinds of aspects. It's not only about technique, it's also about semantics, functional, organizational, juridical. So all kinds of aspects are attached to that. But interoperability is, in my opinion, the essence of that new digital world, that metaverse or citiverse. But okay, if we wanted to try to give it a definition, maybe it's too early, but let's try. And then we would say that the metaverse is a digital experience, that it's completely intertwined with the social reality of us people. And that the metaverse, we can move fluidly and footloose from one and another digital surroundings to another digital surroundings. And we have all the interactions that we want to have there, including with other people, of course. And we should, who should develop this whole new kind of world? I think we should all develop it together. And so what we call a quadruple helix is, I think, necessary. And not only companies, but also knowledge institutes, governments, and especially, last but not least, the citizens themselves. And we should have much more a shared research agenda in which we can all define our problems and topics and research them together. And the government should have a role in that. Especially when it comes to ethics and safety, transparency, privacy, that kind of things. Because we see that in this new kind of ecosystem, trust is very important to make it a success. And trust translates into that the role of the government mainly not necessarily as the development of techniques and that kind of stuff, but mainly, of course, creating the right framework there. So it's very important that we also, as a government, take our role in this development. And last but not least, also mentioned by the previous speaker, digital inclusion, because of course we as a city are very responsible also for everybody who has troubles to come along in these developments. So when you look at that new city that we mentioned, and we see that digital transition coming towards this city, how do we make sure that the city and its citizens in the future will be resilient and resilient enough to deal with everything that's coming towards them, and that they can have the opportunities there that are possible there. So how do we make sure that we don't have a digital divide? Now, and I really believe that in that sense, to make sure that everybody can participate in it, of course, we as a municipality should focus on the group that is left behind, that growing group of people that cannot come along in this. But we also should focus on the front runners. And not only because they also pay taxes and make sure that they also make the job for tomorrow, but it's also that we should connect to them, because we should make them also responsible for taking those who are left behind coming along, because we as a government cannot do that by ourselves. So we also need the front runners to make sure that the people who are left behind also are coming along. So we need to do this together, I think. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roland, for your very interesting presentation. And our next speaker is Dr. Marwan Azrouni, Strategic Advisor for the Dubai Department of Economy and Tourism, and also CEO at the Dubai Blockchain Center. So he boasts an extensive career spanning over 2 decades, during which he has made very significant contribution to the development of emerging technologies, information security, AIs, etc. So he's also sitting on the Global Future Council of Cryptocurrencies at the World Economic Forum. Marwan, great to see you again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Christina. So I would like to start by sharing my screen, if you enable me to do that.
Sure, you can do it, yeah.
I think somebody else is still sharing the screen.
Yeah, Roland, would you be able to close your screen sharing, please? Okay, you can share that now.
So I'll just start by giving you a little bit of a background. You see my full screen?
It's not full screen yet, so if you can make it full screen, that would be great.
How about now?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll just start by explaining how the metaverse approaches in Dubai, and then we'll take it and I'll show you one of the outputs from that working group in Dubai. So when we looked at the metaverse, we analyzed what we are doing here in Dubai and all our different assets that are based here in Dubai. So we have, of course, the physical Dubai itself with all the buildings and landscapes and all the physical kind of interactions that the normal Dubai visitor has, and all the data that's gathered from the physical world as well. And then we have Digital Dubai, which is the entity responsible for all government departments, which used to be only responsible for interaction of the residents, citizens, and visitors of Dubai with the government entities. But now the mandate for that has changed completely to include every user journey in Dubai, whether it is a physical journey or a digital journey, whether it is a third-party provider like shared, rides or shared apartments or shared or journeys like buying a car, selling land, buying land, grocery shopping, anything that is a friction point or could be a public kind of annoyance or anything that could degrade the experience of Dubai. So everything around Dubai is based on experiences. Positive experiences is what we aim for, and the least amount of steps you have to go through to get something achieved is the better. And the more happier you are, the better for us as a government and also as a city. So we looked at the metaverse, of course, and all the headlines. And what we looked at is not only the economic value, but the metaverse brings, but also how it changes the way that we interact and how does it really impact our lives, whether it is basically empowering the citizen with data from the city or empowering the city with data from the citizen as well. All that with having the cap of or the perspective of the other in mind as well. So it is really a slider between providing the best experience and at the same time having privacy and the empowerment of the citizen to have data kind of governance over his own data, opt in and opt out of as many services as he wants to. And the more he opts in, the more data that he can actually empower the city with regarding to his, for example, user journey of when transporting through Dubai, or even purchasing something or engaging with any government or private sector entities. And the metaverse, we had two types of metaverse, the big tech kind of metaverse, which is actually what Mike Zuckerberg was referring to as a place to hang out with friends, a place to work in with virtual work spaces, as well as a place to learn, shop, and create. So everybody's empowered to use this metaverse. But it did not include the other part of the metaverse, which is Web3. The Web3 metaverse for us is also important. And the metaverse in this case becomes a vague kind of term as well, where you actually combine something like cyberspace with metaverse interchangeably, where value is actually what is the driver, not the actual interactivity. And what we decided in Dubai is actually to do both. Try to, as much as possible, start from a clear kind of definition of what the metaverse is, and build a metaverse on our kind of terms, not what the commercial entities are building for, not what the actual status quo of the big tech companies is, to see what value we can extract. We did the same thing with blockchain. When we did the blockchain strategy from 2016 till 2020, the focus was on what applicable use cases can be derived and taken advantage of this kind of technology, which is at that time was the blockchain. This is no different for us. Metaverse, we look at the value take from the metaverse for the city, for the citizen, for experiences, and therefore we have to really focus on how do we make the most out of this. And to have a guideline of where our thinking is, we had to establish some kind of a white paper and some kind of an approach where we start with a certain set of sectors where we see the most value is within the metaverse, and really try to find the applicable use cases within those. And our starting set was actually influenced a lot with Web3. In this case, art and culture with NFTs and NFT digital arts, education with digital courses and remote working. And we have actually a ministry of AI, digital economy, and remote work for that purpose. And that now took a backseat right now because people are coming back to work, but it's not completely gone. A lot of the government departments until today in Dubai and a lot of other Emirates use remote work on a regular basis, if not on a weekly basis. And we have rotations of employees coming into work and working from home. Security and safety for us is extremely important. And I'm going to share more with you on regards to that as well in the next slides. And of course, one of the new concepts is digital land and digital worlds and parallel worlds, worlds like things like Decentraland, things like sandbox and virtual land and virtual ownership. And this is something we're exploring right now by actually buying land and building in it and then seeing the reaction. But we haven't seen a lot of momentum in this area. So it is an area that we're exploring. And of course, the value exchange within the metaverse when it comes to digital currencies or virtual land or any kind of tangible assets in the real world and the physical world, and also the phygital, which bridges both. One of the outputs we've released last month is a responsible metaverse, the self-governance framework. And I would like to direct your attention to Section 3. In Section 3, you'll see that the focus areas have slightly changed from what I mentioned to where we focus on the GDP and the impact of each one of those sections on our GDP and the global GDP when it comes to where we see the value is in the metaverse. I don't know if you can see the slides right now did it shift to a PDF?
Yes,
Or
we
should I
can see
start?
it, yeah.
Okay, so you can see digital identities, right?
And see the responsible metaverse self-governance framework.
Okay, so you cannot see digital identity. So I'll stop sharing and then I'll start sharing again.
Okay.
And then we'll jump into the PDF. Can you now see current regulations?
I think it's coming. Yeah, it's coming now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's do that. Let's jump into that. So one of the things we noticed that something we have, which is digital identity, and as well as this is all from, let me go to the beginning. Sorry for this. Responsible Metaverse white paper that I mentioned, that's available online. I'll share it with you guys as well at the end of this presentation. And one of the value takes here is actually digital identity. And what we did in Dubai is we started digital identity not on the blockchain, but rather using existing technologies such as PKI, which is public key infrastructure. Data protection is at the core of what we do as well. Things like copyright and IP of digital goods is extremely important, and that's what we are leveraging as well. Legal enforceability by nature, metaverse is global, and therefore we have to have this passportability and accountability for the players within the metaverse. And that's why this is a self-governance kind of document that we cannot really enforce globally. Therefore, it is more like a general kind of guidelines and I would say not a framework, but guardrails that we are considering as Dubai and the UAE. I'll just explain some of the areas and industries we're focusing on to start with, and those are manufacturing, healthcare, tourism, retail, education, and financial services. And those areas are included here because of their impact on the global GDP. I'll jump into some of the use cases that were done here. Well, let's jump into Barbados, for example. Barbados created the world's first metaverse kind of virtual embassy. Instead of creating a physical embassy in a number of world destinations, they just created a way for people to be able to reach out and get actual services from their virtual embassy. It's an amazing use case that was kicked off by one of my close friends, His Excellency Gabriel Abed, who is actually the minister or the ambassador of Barbados to the UAE. In the UAE, of course, we launched our metaverse strategy back in 2022, and the aim for which is to create Dubai into one of the top 10 metaverse economies worldwide. We have aimed for attracting more than 1,000 companies. We actually right now have over 1,850 companies within the blockchain and metaverse space, and also to create 40,000 virtual jobs by 2030. We created a from scratch virtual asset regulatory authority as well to support this metaverse kind of shift in the way we do business here in the UAE. I would like to just, before I conclude, to mention that data privacy and data protection is extremely important, and IP within the metaverse is something that is high on our agenda. Of course, data sovereignty, self-sovereignty over data, and cybersecurity is one of the highest priorities for us as well here in Dubai and the UAE. And we, of course, use technology through two things, actually. One is technical enforcement and, of course, legal enforcement. So a combination of both is what we have as an approach for this kind of protection. Digital well-being is also one of the things we look at, and we are considering in this kind of approach. And this is some of the principles we have here. And I'm not going to go into details, but interoperability for access is important. Privacy by design, sustainability by design, transparency of trust, and blockchain plays a huge part of that. Fairness, equality, and inclusiveness is at the core as well of our principles. Commitment to diversity is actually important. And like I mentioned, accountability is there as well as safety by design, especially for younger users of the metaverse. That's it for me. And I encourage you to jump into this kind of document and really explore it by yourself. And if you have any kind of questions, all the authors are listed, as well as you can always reach out to me. All the authors are listed as well in the end of the document. Thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Melvin. Every time when you speak, I learn so much from you. And I think lots of governments will be very curious, how you guys are able to create the whole ecosystem around the metaverse or citiverse to attract foreign direct investments, entrepreneurs, and global talents to go to Dubai. Or maybe that's something we can all learn from you guys in the future.
We learn by doing, and I think we always practice what we preach. And every single thing that you saw in the white paper, before we enforce it or put it out to the world, we actually practice it and actually do it in Dubai before. Even there's a mandate or regulation. We are at the forefront of this technology, as always, with our leadership in Dubai, always encouraging us to design the future and also build it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Cool. Our next speaker is Teppo Rannanen, and he is the Executive Director of City of Tampere in Finland. And he has been working with Deloitte in 2002 and 2016, and the last 2 years in London as a member of the global technology, media, and telecom leadership team. Before that, he was the CEO of Deloitte Finland for 12 years. So Teppo, it's always great to meet you. And we recently did a report together to launch the world's first people-centered metaverse strategy, Tampere Metaverse Vision 2040. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for your introduction. Now, been 7 years with the city of Tampere, and it's been a great time, and really good to hear from Roland and Marwan, to people we've been working together with, and see how we can promote the whole idea of putting the metaverse into reality. So let me see if I can now share my screen in a way that it shows the... Can you see the full screen now?
It's coming. It's still not full screen yet. Do you want to click on that again?
Let me just work on make that visible. Let's do it again. Is it now better?
We can see you, but we can't see the screen.
Always my bad with the Zoom.
Yes, it's coming. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So let me talk a little bit about what we have been doing in Tampere around the idea around people-centered citiverse and metaverse. And we have been looking at this whole notion around the human-centered transformation thinking. So that has been our main focus for the last 5-6 years when we've been developing our smart city thinking. Now, this is something where we feel that it's really, really key to look at it from the point of view of people, of our citizens. How can we make sure that all of the technologies we're putting in place, how the data we are using, how that can be actually used in a way that it will improve the life, the everyday life of our residents, of our people, especially those who have challenges using new technologies, and how we make sure that our elderly people or disabled or kids can best be served using the modern technologies. So if we are looking into where we are right now and how we are moving forward with this, we can be, let's see if I can move forward now. There we go. So we have been moving on this Tampere vision, systematically working together with companies, working together in the whole ecosystem to be providing the best possible ways of pulling in the right resources, the best resources around the world to help to develop what we wanted to do. So our reputation as one of the partners who is more willing to share things and give ideas has been now promoted quite nicely, and we have a lot of companies. In our first phase of our Smart Tampere program, we had 450 companies working together with us on more than 200 use cases. So we are looking at this from a different benefits point of view, where we definitely want to be working to improve our social, urban, and ethical services based on actual needs. That's the sort of a real human-centered and people-driven idea that we're doing. And also placing citizens as co-creators of urban interventions. So that is in our broader array of benefits and possibilities. What we see is clearly important for the people point of view, looking at it from the people point of view. But also it's like how we can best use the technologies that's available, how we can best make sure that the data we have is used for these purposes. Now, in our Tampere strategy, we are really looking for something where we want to be boldly embracing what is going to happen, pioneering the future, and developing a really challenging task. So one of the examples is when we developed the metaverse vision for 2040, which is ambitious vision of what we want the city to look like. And we know that there's a lot to do in order to get there. We've been trying to put practical things in place and know where to start with. So what we started with was a 5 flagship programs where we looked at what we can do today to move towards the metaverse, which is really people-centered and people-focused. And we have in 5 different flagship programs. There's a lot of material and slides, which I will go through quickly, but I will be happy to share the slides for you to learn more about that. But we've been looking at the angle from the companies we have, the businesses we have, looking at our international talent that we have, looking at our kids, youth, and children point of view, looking at from the sort of a safe pedestrian city point of view, and then sustainable city point of view. And in those, we have been looking at how can we help businesses grow using data, using AI, using new technologies in helping our companies to be better and successful in our city. And we have been looking at new services there. One of them is a sort of a idea of data as a service for our companies, and we've been putting, for example, a virtual assistant to tell how the people flow in the city is today, but also predicting the future of the city flow. And this is what we call the pulse, Tampereen pulse, where you can see in the certain areas in the middle of the city how people are, how busy they are from people's point of view right now, but also looking at hour by hour in the next 30 days or 60 days going forward. And that has been very much welcomed by our companies, restaurants, and shop owners. We're also trying to see how we can help the international people who come to Tampere to be better served using data, using technology to help them to find their place, find their services, and also understanding how we can better be attracting more of international talent to the city. And we've been expanding quite a lot now our base of foreign-born people who've moved to Tampere in the last 2 or 3 years, which has been good. So we've been successfully implementing this. And there's also an app to be used, and there's tools for people to be really available for them already today. A third of our element is look at the city of growth and learning, and looking at how our people, how youngsters can better learn, can better live their lives, especially if they have challenging conditions in front of them, and trying to promote things like equal learning opportunities, and also be able to tackle the potential segregation issues. Now, Safe Pedestrian City is the fourth one we had, which we are looking for. Digital twins, XR reality, to be able to make sure that we have an interesting city which is safe and also brings the different types of new exciting things to see and watch in the city. So that is something which we are really proud today, and how that is moving forward. The fifth area is the sustainable city, where we're looking at the whole concept of fully digitalized twins of a city, both the built environment and non-built environment, looking at how to move around, how to secure things like drone corridors, autonomous driving, and also the public transportation issues within our city. So these are things that we are doing today, providing a lot of, like, we have a full-fledged IoT platform in place, which gives us a lot of information, a lot of data about what's happening in the city. We have an app which gives us different information about our CO2 emissions and the traffic and travel, air quality, and kind of things. And we are looking also from the point of view of what does it mean from good governance point of view? What does it mean from the ethical point of view? How can we better understand what are the roles that the city can play, and how we can make sure that our people are really trusting us? And we have a high level of trust in Finland, and that is something we can use because people trust government, they trust what we're doing. And we are really looking forward working together with our partners in collaboration of the citiverse development, both in European context, but also globally. And that's why we're happy to be part of this program and part of this seminar today. And our vision is really to build a responsible, sustainable, ethical city with governance, and unleashing the potential of combining the physical and virtual worlds in the metaverse concept, and using new technologies which are centered on bringing people better lives and better days of their living in the city. So thank you so much for this, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Teppo, for such a forward-thinking metaverse vision. And we will be very looking forward to see what's coming next from Tampere, because there are lots of exciting things going on in that side. So congratulations again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Our next speaker is Nicholas Yu, and he is the Executive Director from Guangzhou Institute for Urban Innovation. Nicholas is a leading authority on urban innovation. He has 50 years of experience as an advisor to mayors, central government leaders globally. He has worked for 30 plus years at the UN and international financial institutions on municipal finance, management, and planning. And he has trained and advised more than 1,000 city officials in 80 plus countries. So he is quite a well-respected figure in the urban planning space. So Nicholas, we are very delighted to have you here today. Over to you.
Thank you, Christina. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be amongst so many prominent people who are working on this very challenging but yet exciting new development. I would just like to share a use case with you today, because I think we are all talking about principles, looking at standards. We're trying to define what the citiverse is. But I've recently come across a very interesting case in my work, and I would just like to share it briefly with the audience. It's basically from the city that I'm working in, which is Guangzhou. And what happened is that a few years ago, during the COVID lockdown, Guangzhou is a city of about 18 million people. There are just a simple statistic, there are about 160 to 170,000 births a year in this city. Now, what happened during COVID was that, of course, they didn't want pregnant women, mothers to get infected. So they tried to avoid that these women need to come to the hospital to do routine tests. So what they did was give each pregnant woman a kit. This kit was linked on a 5G network, and they could do 6 basic tests at home, including photos and other things with the mobile phone. And this data was shared across the cloud that only hospital health workers had access to. And if anything was anomalous, what happened was that the system would immediately notify the doctors and say, look, there's something that isn't quite right here, so please take a look at it. The doctors would then look at the data and the system would advise the pregnant mother where was the safest place to go for additional help. Not the closest, the safest, because this was all geolocated information. They knew where she lived, they knew where she worked, they knew where she usually goes for shopping, etc. So they could, and because the Chinese were testing almost every other day, they were able to come up with a safe map for this woman to seek additional medical advice. The system worked very, very well. So well that the authorities decided, why don't we try to use this infrastructure that we've created for other purposes? So one of the particularities in China, it's also shared, I think, by Korea and Japan, is that we have neonatal jaundice at a much higher rate than anywhere else in the world. It is apparently genetic. And we also have very high rates of this problem. Normally goes away by itself. I mean, babies in the West also get neonatal jaundice, but usually it disappears after 3 or 4 days. And it can usually be treated very easily as well. But for some reason in Northeast Asia, we have a very high percentage of cases that become serious and even life-threatening. And the cost of, should it get serious, the cost of treatment is very, very high. It requires nothing less than blood transfusion. And that for a newborn is a very difficult thing to do. So basically, they adapted the infrastructure, and now after the mother goes home with the newborn, she can monitor the baby for 8 to 10 days. That's the critical period, the first 8 to 10 days of the child's life. And if, again, using a very simple kit, using her mobile phone, taking temperatures and things like that, she can actually share that data, again, over the cloud. And again, with AI assistance, the system will pick up any anomalies. And if should there be any anomalies, they will immediately, a medical officer will contact the mother. This system also worked very well. In an year and a half, with more than 200,000 births, the serious cases dropped by more than half, and no deaths reported. And the cases requiring expensive treatment dropped by 90%. So basically saving the healthcare system a lot of money. Now the system is being extended until the child is 18 years old. And what I'm working on personally right now is looking at the policy framework together with the government of Guangzhou and other provinces to see how the data that has been collected using these two systems can be used to create a digital twin of the baby. Now, the idea is that if we create the digital twin just using DNA information, no other information is required, we can do two things. One is accelerate the growth of the digital twin so that it grows, let's say, a year every day, and see if this child naturally develops any illnesses. And if it does, then we have an early warning system. So let's say this child before the age of 18, sometime around 11 or 12, develops an illness, then we have a red flag system. And the medical profession can begin to advise the parents to looking for certain symptoms in a timely manner. The second one is even more interesting, is that if we do create the digital twin, and of course the digital twin doesn't eat McDonald's, doesn't drink Coca-Cola, should the real world baby develop a problem, a health problem, then using AI, we can very rapidly estimate whether the cause is medical or not medical, because we know that children born today, 90% of the illnesses that they will suffer from will be socially determined, which means it's either because of their social environment, their physical environment, the natural environment, etc., what they're eating, lifestyle choices. So this becomes really interesting, is that if the real world baby develops an ailment that the digital twin doesn't develop, then we can most probably begin searching for the real cause. Right now, if a child is sick, the parent has no other choice but to seek medical advice. But here we could bring together all the other data that we have on their housing conditions, working conditions, living conditions, etc., and begin to look at real prevention. So here is a use case, if you wish, of how the citiverse, how AI and other technologies can help truly develop a preventative health system. As we know, probably the two biggest impacts of AI on human society, one will be the future of work, and the other one will be health and well-being. So here is one case that I'm following very closely, because I think it can be a case from which we can learn a lot. And of course, the principles that we need to derive from it. For example, in order to build that trust with the data, one of the principles that we're thinking about is to use an independent third party that has custody of the data, but only for building the model. Once the model is built, there's no reason to keep that data. And so if that is an independent third party that is trusted by everybody, then I think we can go a long way. So that's all I wanted to do, was to share this use case with you. And as I said, it's work in progress.
This is very impressive and interesting, as we know that Dr. Geoffrey Hinton, who is the godfather of AI, he mentioned recently in an interview that he personally believes that AI can play a massive positive impact for humans' healthcare moving forward. And this is perhaps one of the most powerful case studies we can looking for in the citiverse environment. So thank you so much, Nicholas, for sharing this with us, and we definitely want to include this as a case studies in the working group of the ITU moving forward. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, cool. Our next speaker is Dr. Ian Opperman. He is the Chief Data Scientist of New South Wales Government of Australia. And he leads the New South Wales Government AI Review Committee, another AI, it's very important, and Smart Places Advisory Council. Ian is widely considered as an expert in the field of digital economy. He is also president of National Committee of Australia for International Electrotechnical Commission and chair for Standard Development and Accreditation Committee of Standard Australia. Ian, over to you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ian Opperman. I'm the New South Wales Government Chief Data Scientist and Industry Professor at University of Technology in Sydney, and also a board member of the International Electrotechnical Commission, the IEC. The metaverse, is it just another buzzword, or is it really a thing? Is it a real business opportunity? It's been hailed as the successor to the internet, and it's expected to serve as an immense space where you can work, socialize, play, and shop. Yet, while the metaverse has received much public attention and investment, there's still no convergence on terminology, application, and use. Is a single metaverse realistic, or are we really witnessing fragmented and parallel applications based on diverse communities and purposes? So what I'd like to do just for the next few minutes is give you a bit of a perspective on my own view on the metaverse, and also something we're doing from a tangible perspective to try and take steps to bring standards into the world of the metaverse. So let's start with, what is the metaverse? Is it still relevant? Given that you've joined this session, you probably are familiar with some elements of the metaverse. The metaverse has often been described as just a souped up version of an advanced version of the internet, much more 3D than the 2D experience that we have, the 2D experience we're having right at the moment with this recorded session. But the metaverse has a lot of potential. The metaverse persists when you're not there. If you log off, it's still there. If you engage in serious transactions in the metaverse, those engagements and transactions still exist after you've left. So it is a bit like the convergence of a meeting place, an online engagement, but also more than just games. If we start to do things which are important in the metaverse, if we start to talk about digital identity, if we start talking about real transactions with businesses or governments, then the metaverse is something quite different to a simple engagement or even a game where the consequences don't really matter. We can spend, we can commit, we can apply obligations in a metaverse environment. And interestingly, of course, the issue is that if we are in a shop, we know where we are and when we are, we know who we're engaging with. In a metaverse environment, you don't entirely know who the other person is. You don't know if they really are who they represent themselves to be. You don't know whether or not you have the right to engage in a service. Maybe that service is gambling, or maybe that service is consumption of restricted material. You don't know whether or not you are in the right domain for those applications or regulations to apply. And it's quite a different blurring of where and when you are compared to a simple online engagement. So is it relevant? Absolutely. Is it a way of doing things different? Absolutely. Is it something that we really need to think differently about? Absolutely, because many of the things that we've worked out over time about appropriate behaviours, appropriate practices, appropriate work health and safety issues are things we still need to work out, because they do have a geographic and a temporal and a relationship element to them, where when we're doing things in a digital environment, it's not quite the same, but it has similar connotations to what we're doing in the physical environment. What could it look like, and how do you see it evolving? Really important questions. So as I started just moments ago to talk about, we've worked out practices of behaviour in the workplace, which talk about appropriate interactions or appropriate issues like behaviours and space and the sorts of things you can comment on, the sorts of things that allow people to get on in either professional or non-professional environment. In the metaverse, we get a bit of a twist there. For example, could I turn up looking like a pirate in the metaverse? Of course I can. Technically, of course I can. Would I do that? Could I represent a different aspect of my personality in a metaverse environment. I technically could, but would I do it? Could I represent myself as a woman or a child or an historical figure? Of course, technically I could, but would that be an appropriate thing to do? Would I be okay to engage with someone who represented themselves as a relative of mine, even though they weren't really, and possibly even a dead relative of mine? It's all technically possible. And of course, it's not illegal because it's a virtual environment. But these are the sorts of questions that we really need to start thinking about. How can we verify who we're engaged with? What's appropriate in terms of virtual behavior? And what's the underpinning in terms of harms and considerations or regulations or restrictions that we need to think about in that virtual environment? What are the challenges to build an accessible, safe and interoperable metaverse? Well, some of that is really quite straightforward, but some of it really is semantic and syntactic issues, and that's the easy stuff. But as I'm starting to allude to, could I, for example, engage with a gaming device in the metaverse that I wouldn't be allowed to engage with in my own environment? Here in New South Wales, there are restrictions on poker machines. So those slot machines you put money in, the wheels spin. There are restrictions on engagement with those in New South Wales. But if I'm engaging with one in the metaverse, is that okay? And whose jurisdiction actually applies? Whose laws apply? If I'm engaging with someone and they're pretending to be a child, can I actively verify that person is a child, or are they really someone else? Is it okay for someone to represent themselves as a different gender or as a different personality? And if I'm relying on what they're telling me, can I rely upon them if they're actually underage and I can't really engage with them legally or contractually if they're not of an age where they can commit to those sort of relationships? So there are a lot of issues around that element of safe, which goes well beyond issues of technology, well beyond issues of credit card, well beyond issues of potential fraud. In a real work environment, we have things around breaks, around the length of the working day, around the level of light and ventilation that comes into a building. Do we have the equivalent of those issues in a metaverse environment? For example, how long should we be expected to operate in the metaverse environment? What's the equivalent of light and fresh air in the metaverse environment? What's the equivalent of appropriate space between workers and appropriate interaction between colleagues in a metaverse environment? These are the sorts of things that seem to have a relatively straightforward equivalent in the metaverse environment, but don't necessarily map when things like how we present, how often we engage, how we engage, they don't have a natural equivalent in a metaverse environment. So there's some things we need to think about, which are possibly not, I'm dipping into the metaverse for 30 minutes and I'll leave, and that was a really interesting experience, to this is how I go to work every day. This is how I engage with people every day. This is how I build relationships every day. So some of these challenges about an accessible and safe metaverse really need to be thought about. Accessibility is a really interesting one. So potentially the metaverse is far more accessible for people with disabilities than the physical world, just because of the physicality associated with challenges with disability. It may well be much, much easier to access the metaverse if you have a disability. But again, what's appropriate? How should we engage with an avatar, or possibly an avatar which does or does not represent a disability in the metaverse? What's appropriate? What is appropriate? These are things that we haven't quite worked out. The last question is, what's the current and future direction of metaverse standardization? That's a doozy of a question. The metaverse, it's a bit like smart cities really, the metaverse has so many different elements to it. From an enabling technology perspective, we talk about data sharing and digital twins and AI and Internet of Things. And these are all, if you like, the horizontals that really help support really what the metaverse promises to be able to do. But we do need to think about specific standards for the metaverse, which talk about safety. Safety for participants, safety for those people with disabilities, safety for those who are vulnerable, safety for children. And we also need to think about this from a very, very different perspective. Very often what we do is we work with industry groups, we build consensus slowly, and we create standards. The metaverse is moving much, much faster than anything we've seen before. So being able to adapt to a much more rapidly changing technology where there is not yet an acknowledged industry group that we should work with is part of the challenge of developing standards for the metaverse. What we're doing in Standards Australia is using an alternative pathway for developing standards, so something relatively new for us, which does acknowledge the fact that it's different for an area like the metaverse. It's different for a whole lot of emerging or rapidly changing technologies. And we are using the alternative pathways to develop standards for child safety in the metaverse. And that's a really important one. So again, if you're a child or young person, how do you appropriately engage with the metaverse, given that all the different ways of normally telling safe engagement, safe conduct, safe environment suddenly get turned on their head in the metaverse environment? So we're trying to cut through some of that. How do you tell? How do you represent? How do you validate? How do you verify? We're trying to cut through some of that with standards specifically for child safety in the metaverse. There's a long, long way to go, and we will, of course, keep working on the technological enabling standards. We also, in the world of ISO, IEC, JTC1, are working on issues around trustworthiness. And we, of course, are making really good progress on data usage and Internet of Things and digital things and so on. But it's specifically in the context of metaverse that we really do need to take some big steps forward where we embrace that whole more holistically. So, sorry I can't join you in person. I hope you have a really fantastic conference. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Ian. I agree with you that standardization for the future of Citiverse is really crucially important, especially when it comes to safety and all the other matters. So I'm going to invite another expert from the standardization committee to join us and talk about his view on this important issue. So Ralph Ma is chair of the IEEE Metaverse Standard Working Group, and he is an expert in the field of consumer electronics with 20 years experience. And he's currently director of technology at VerseMaker, which provides integrated service for China's metaverse development. So Ralph, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me for this session. It's a great pleasure to introduce what we are doing and what are we planning to do. So, yeah, that's the IEEE Metaverse Standard Committee. This committee is approved by at 21 September 2022, but we are starting our work from back to 2017. About 6 years ago, we set up the formerly IEEE VR and AR Standard Committee. No, things changed, so we have a metaverse, we have a more technology involved, so we change to our new scope. The scope is develop and maintain standard recommended practice guideline for the visual reality and augmented reality using open and extended process and to advocate them to a global basis. So
you make it full screen, please?
Sorry?
Can you make the presentation full screen?
Also, okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So this slide will show the current standard we are developing. We have a P2048 standard for metaverse terminology, definition, and technology. And we have some standards regarding the ethics for the metaverse. We also have standards for identity in the metaverse. Actually, we divided the metaverse technologies. It's a collection of emerging technologies into three main core technology and some supportive technologies. Like we have three computing technology, like spatial computing is a core technology for metaverse. We also have a persistent computing for the metaverse. Another one is trust computing. Trust computing is like Web3 blockchain is decentralized finance. We kind of think trust computing may or may not be the essential technology for metaverse. It is debating, but for my personal perspective, for my personal opinion, it should be. So we set up three IC function. IC function is like association inside IEEE. We have IC 22 persistent computing. We have IC 15 for decentralized metaverse. We have a spatial computing initiative is undergoing for waiting for the approval. So that's IC for the inside the metaverse. This is actually a standard project for the metaverse. We have on the right part we can see the standard with the name for the metaverse. We have AI standards for the AI ethics, governance, and the spatial vibe. We also have a lot of standards regarding human-machine interface, interaction, AR, VR, MR, and ER. For the supporting technologies like cloud computing, digital twin, big data, Web3, we also have a lot of standards undergoing. The last one on the right part is IEEE blockchain projects, because this is so many standards on this here. So I didn't list them all. So on the left part we can have some non-standard projects. Like we have IEEE VRAR, the Web3 board. They have a lot of experts for giving us advice, giving us some suggestions, advice for our standard activities. We also have extended reality ethics initiatives to oversee all the ethics related standards. We also have a series conference, what we call the IEEE Metaverse Congress. Starting from June 2022 in Toronto, we have section 0 in the forum about the metaverse. Because of the pandemic, in 2022 we have a lot of all the section actually is virtual, and this year we have more and more face-to-face section, face-to-face conference. From January we have a Davos special. We have a Davos summit, Davos a special summit. We also have a Bangalore summit. We also have New York and Shanghai and Japan. We are having IEEE SA conference next month. Is to celebrate the 122 years for the standard developing, and the 25th anniversary for the standard IEEE standard annual standard association. There's a lot of topic regarding the metaverse and AI. If you are interested, we also have a live signal. Also for the we covered a lot of topics for the IEEE Metaverse Congress. Some of our experts introduced the digital Singapore solution. They have actually Singapore want to be the smartest city in the world. They do a lot of things. They put almost all their government service to the web. Also, some build the digital twins for the entire Singapore. It is as we all know, Singapore is a nation city. It's a city nation. So digital Singapore is like it's a good example for the policymakers to digitalize our life. So that's a good example for the metaverse and also cityverse. Thank you. That's all. I list our Metaverse Congress website and our working group website, and my email and my LinkedIn information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ralph, from IEEE for your great contribution. We're very much looking forward to working with you, to looking at how to set up inclusive, accessible, and sustainable international standard around citiverse moving forward. So we are actually running short on time, but I know some of our audience might want to ask some questions to our distinguished panel of experts. So I suggest that we take one question, and if any of our panelists would like to have a quick answer, and then we will take about 5 minutes for Q&A. So I think the question that most people talk about today is about accessibility inclusion of the cityverse, especially when it evolves in so many different technology. So my question to the panel is, when we are trying to build a people-centered future cityverse, how can we ensure it's really inclusive of people from all kinds of backgrounds, all countries, all cities? So I wonder if any of our speaker would like to volunteer to give a few quick words on this question. You can turn on your camera now. Nicholas, do you want to have a go, perhaps? Oh, Roland, go ahead.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult question. How do we make ensure, at least? But I really think that we constantly should have focus on it. And constantly, but with every step we take, every development we make, constantly ask ourselves the question, what does this do with resiliency of our city and our citizens? And how do we make sure that everybody, at least in the case of us, because we are a city, of course, in the case of our city, that everybody in our city can come along with it. And transparency, I think that are the best guarantees to make sure that everybody can come along. But I don't have the answer to ensure that everybody can come along. Sorry for that.
fun. Would any other speaker also want to comment on that? Oh.
Well, if I may say a couple of comments, I think that it is a tough one, but I think the only way to do it is to really engage with the people, with different groups of people, and make sure that we listen to and try to find out ways how to get to the ones who don't usually participate actively in our processes. So I think that you have to use both sort of a traditional means and digital means to do that. But I think it's absolutely important and vital to reach out to people and start getting, their views, and also try to activate them by doing this reach outs. But it's not easy.
I agree. Would any other speaker also like to comment on this, perhaps? Ralph, do you want to say something about accessibility and inclusion issues of Citiverse for our citizens, perhaps?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
The question is, how can we make sure the future of metaverse in the city environment will be accessible to people from different backgrounds, from different cities, different part of the world, etc.?
Well, that's a good question, and for my perspective, the metaverse is the key for the success of the metaverse is to be more accessible. We need all devices, like not only the headset or smart glasses. We need everything, like a smartphone, like PC. It all can access the metaverse. So that's one of the key challenges for the metaverse and for the standardization. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. So we have such a intellectually stimulating discussion today. And now we will move on to the last part of the webinar, for which I would like to give the floor to Christina Bruetti, which is a counselor of ITU Focus Group on Metaverse, to do the closing remarks. Christina, over to you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude today's webinar on how to successfully develop the people-centered citiverse, on behalf of the International Telecommunication Union, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to all who have contributed to the success of this important event. Firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. Christina Janzang, the CEO of the Metaverse Institute, for partnering with us to organize this insightful webinar. I would like also to extend our gratitude to the Mayor of Querétaro, and the Secretary General of WIGO, and our colleagues, especially at UN Habitat, for their opening remarks, which set the tone for our discussions. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude also to the distinguished speakers for their insightful presentations and for sharing their views and knowledge today. I think it has been an amazing webinar, and in taking into consideration that today we had the opportunity to delve into the concept of the citiverse, a network of interconnected virtual worlds that mirrors the physical counterparts. We also explored the need to shift our focus from technology itself on how it can enhance life, solve real problems, and improve the quality of life of all inhabitants in order to build people-centered smart cities. The discussion emphasized the potential of smart city platforms to enable inhabitants to provide feedback, for example, on city services, vote on proposed projects, and generally making more engaged inhabitants in shaping their cities. Many of you have highlighted the importance of making people at the heart of the city planning and development process. And as we move forward, I encourage you to build on the insights gained from this webinar by joining the ITU and making the most of our open and collaborative platform to develop smart city standards and guidelines. Together, we can harness the power of digital transformation to make our cities not just smart, but also sustainable for the benefits of all inhabitants. Before I conclude my closing remarks, I'd like also to encourage all of you to join the ITU focus group on metaverse, in particular the task group on citiverse, which is led by Dr. Christina Yanzang and Ms. Cristina Martinez from the European Commission. This is a very important task group that is carrying out, innovative work for which we need your help, your contribution, and also your inputs. So here is my call for all of you to join the focus group, which is open to all, and you can join at any moment and contribute to the discussions. To stay engaged with the ITU and other future webinars, I invite you also to visit our digital transformation website and to participate in our initiatives. The journey towards a people-centered citiverse is a collective one and needs input from a variety of sectors, industry, and experts. Once again, I extend my deepest thanks to all panelists, to all participants for your insightful contributions, and I look forward to our continued collaboration on this important topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina, for your wonderful concluding remarks. And I would like to take this opportunity again to thank all our distinguished panelists, our lovely audience, for spending those wonderful 2 hours, discussing how we can create future, people-centered citiverse for the benefits of all. And as mentioned before, we have the task group on citiverse. So if you want to join, feel free to contact us anytime. And we look forward to seeing you again at the next episode of the ITU webinar. Thank you so much and have a lovely day. Bye-bye. Ciao.